The other day on Instagram, I saw someone filling a hole with caulk. And that's a bad idea. Never fill a hole with caulk because you can't sand caulk. And if you're going to fill a hole, whether it's a screw hole or a nail hole or some kind of an imperfection, you're generally going to dome the fill up a little bit so you can sand it flush once it dries. With caulking, you need to smooth it out while it's still wet. And I don't care what type of caulking you're using, it's going to contract as it dries. So if you're filling a seam, like the seam that I purposely made with this piece of molding here, as the caulking dries, it is going to contract a little bit, but on a seam like on this molding, it's not going to be very noticeable. But on a hole, you probably can't see it. I'll try to bring the camera in. I filled this yesterday with caulking, smoothed it out with a putty knife, and it's contracted almost, looks like more than a 1/16 of an inch, almost an 1/8 of an inch. So you can imagine what that would look like if you painted that. It would stick out like a sore thumb. So caulking is meant for filling seams, not holes. So you have to take what you see on Instagram with a grain of salt. Now, as far as wood fills, there's a million wood fills out there. I use very few, and for the most part, on most interior projects, I use joint compound. So you probably already have joint compound. It's very inexpensive, very easy to use. It sands easy, cleans up easy. And like I said, you probably already have it. So if you're doing a home renovation type project or a home improvement type project, more than likely caulking and joint compound is all you need for your fills, filling your seams and filling your holes, like your nail holes. I'll get into some other products for bigger holes, but let's just try to keep things simple and not spend a ton of money. So joint compound, I have it in this small container. As you probably know, it comes in 5-gallon and 2-gallon buckets. I just put a little bit in a container, put some plastic wrap over it, and that makes it easier to use. When I use joint compound, it's generally for nail holes, small cracks, and I'll apply it with my finger, dome it up a little bit. It sands really easy. Once I've sanded it, I'll prime it. The primer sucks into the joint compound and makes it that much harder. I've been using joint compound for projects, like trim projects, for decades and have never had a problem. I'll get into how I use caulk in a minute. I just want to mention 2 other fills that I do use. For exterior projects, I use Ready Patch. This you can use on screw holes, so like 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8, and nail holes, so your nail gun holes, things like that. Anything bigger, anything where it's like a real wood repair, I use something called Bondo. If you're not familiar with this, this is a 2-part system, so you've got a resin and a hardener. This has a very strong smell. It is usable outside and inside, but it does have a strong smell. And it's a little bit more difficult to work with because you have a shorter working time. And that depends on how much hardener you put in the resin. But if you're going to use this, kind of get everything ready. So once you put the hardener in, mix it up, you're able to start working, because you may only have 5 to 10 minutes to work with it, depending on how much hardener and also depending on the temperature. There's a few variables, but this stuff works great. If you have an area on the outside of your house where you've got rot and you've removed the rotted wood and now you've got a big gap that you have to fill, Bondo is the thing you want to use. So let's just go ahead and I'll show you how I use caulking for its intended purpose of filling seams. I've cut the tip of the caulk at an angle. I'll put that angle right where the molding meets the wall. And come back with a wet finger. You can see I messed up a little bit there. I can always come back and just add a little bit more caulking. I don't like to go back like this, but it's not a problem. Well, that wasn't my best caulking job, but not too bad. You can see how easy it is. You can always go back and fix it. It's good to have a rag around, a little tub of water. So whenever I'm caulking, I've always got some rags and some water close by. You can also use a rubber glove. Some people feel like you'll get a smoother line with a rubber glove. So what my process is when I'm painting a wall, like trimming and painting a wall, I'll do the trim work, of course, first. Then I do the fill with the joint compound, sand everything, prime everything, give everything one coat of finish paint, and before the last coat of finish paint, so I'm going to get 2 coats of finish paint, before the last coat of finish paint, that's when I'll caulk. I'll let the caulk dry overnight, and then I'm ready to paint. What I don't want to do is do any sanding after I caulk, because then you can maybe hit the caulking with the sandpaper and pull it out and make a mess. So it's a pretty easy process. It's like anything, painting and trim work takes time. But if you do it yourself, you can save money, and part of saving money is not wasting money. So like I said at the very beginning, most of your fill is just going to be your caulk and your joint compound. Hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. If you're still here and you want to learn more about woodworking and maybe even build the furniture for your home, I hope that you'll check out my website and check out all of my project plans. I have a ton of furniture projects over there, and they all have free video tutorials right here on YouTube to help guide you through the project and answer any questions that may come up during the build. So I hope that you'll click on the link in the description or right here and let me help you with your next woodworking project. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.